Here we go.
It's happening.
I guess it is. Do you want me to keep the headphones on? Would it make you feel more like we're being recorded? Or do you want to feel less like we're being recorded?
By the way, we usually keep all this in the episode. Endless banter.
Kaylee, please silence all cell phones.
What are you doing?
She's had a freak out.
Goodness.
All right.
Within the first minute, her phone goes off.
Took about 30 seconds. So, this is episode 20. We've made it to 2 decades of episodes.
2-0. No, that's not 2 decades. Oh, yeah, 2 decades. Yeah.
2 decades. Yeah.
Okay.
You're an accountant.
Yeah.
You're an accountant. 2 decades of being as a podcast. So,
yep.
Episode 20 of Three Brothers Talking. Today, we're in Two Brothers Talking mode. And I'm David.
I'm Andrew.
And we're making history, Andrew, because this is the first time ever that podcast hosts have ever had their wives on a podcast. And so we have...
It's never been done ever.
It's literally never been done.
We stake that claim.
We're breaking new ground here in a way that everyone will never forget.
Yeah. Kaylee's in my foot space right now.
So we have Kaylee, who is Rachel. Or, Kaylee, who is Rachel. No, yeah. Kaylee, who is Andrew's wife.
Yes.
And we have Rachel, who is my wife.
My better half.
Yes. The better half of the podcast here.
Yeah.
Although Jeremy and Faith aren't here, so I don't know.
We're gonna have to. They're gonna have to record just with them two on.
Yes.
We're gonna make
there
them
we go.
Just a conversation with them two.
Exactly. That sounds great.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd be down for that. I'm sure they'd love it.
Not sure how much the listeners would, but
I'm sure. No. Yeah. The listeners would like it more than they would probably like recording it, I bet. But we're recording tonight because we've all now passed our second year of marriage, or we've completed our second year of marriage, I guess, and passed it, whatever. But we are going to talk about things we've learned from the last 2 years of marriage. It's also been a long time, I feel like, since Andrew, you and I have recorded together. Yeah. Is that the case?
Yeah, I was out for quite a bit with like soccer season and all that, and then we've only done one with just us two. It's true. Think, and it's been a while for that. So,
man,
it's good to be back.
Good to be back.
We're in David's house, so that's exciting. They're all settled in. So
Rachel and I made it through moving, and
we're very homey now.
We're like 80% home. Rachel, what percentage are we at?
Probably 80.
80%?
The basement still needs to be unpacked, but
thankfully the basement is not. That's weighted in the percentage differently, you know? So 80% home.
Your main areas are all covered.
The main areas.
Yeah.
In that, the living room, kitchen, and then the one bedroom. The other bedrooms currently are still vacant.
Disaster. No, I'm kidding.
No, they're just empty because we haven't put anything in them because we want to paint them.
Yeah.
And if you've ever moved before, you know that also at the same time when your life gets kind of busy with some traveling and stuff, so a lot of the projects take a little while to get done.
Yep.
That's the number one thing I've learned. And like people, before we moved in,
we're already into lessons now.
Yeah, I know, right? But people,
this is buying a house, but
this is buying a house lessons. One is do not expect to get tons of things done like before you move in. We had a week to get things done, and our list was still like probably way too long.
Oh yeah.
And
we weren't nearly there either, were we?
No,
I don't think so.
No. Yeah, you guys were still you guys were, well, I mean, how moved in are you now? Would you say you're 100% moved in now?
No, I mean, we still literally, after we've been in there for a year and a half. And we're still just now like starting to what's it called? Furnish is the word.
Yeah.
Our like loft area and all that. So that's still an ongoing project, and it will be for a little while longer, making that into like the playroom and everything for the boy.
That's right. Yeah. He's so spoiled. He gets a whole playroom.
Yeah. And our basement is just literally just like storage of just all stuff thrown down there that we don't need at the moment. So
that's remarkably what our basement looks like too. Moving is That's an interesting thing. We wrote our first mortgage check today, which
Big time.
Doesn't feel great.
Yeah.
You know? You kind of get excited because your first month in the house, you don't have to make that mortgage payment. So you're like, this is great. We've got so much money.
Yeah.
We like moving houses aren't expensive at all.
Yeah.
Like what's going on?
And they just give you all this.
They just give you all this basically. We just had to give them some money up front and it's free. Yeah. No, then your mortgage payment comes due and you're like, oh yeah, I still have to do that. But your guys' anniversary is August 5th, right?
Yes.
Okay. And ours is September 30th. Correct. I got that right. Rachel gave me the thumbs up. So that's good to know. So you guys technically had 2 years of marriage first than us.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kaylee, take it away. No, I'm just kidding. No. But as we talk about like being married for 2 years, and what are things that come to your mind? If you've got them right now, you can start it off. If not, I can start it off. But
I mean, the big thing is just lessons learned about communication and then time management. I think is like that is evolved over the year 2, where like I think I got slightly better at it from year 1 to year 2, but still, I mean, you can.
Does that check out?
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
It's a very true statement. That's what Andrew is saying.
Yeah.
That's what Andrew learned in year 2.
Yeah.
I can't agree.
Yeah.
So I think, we got better with that big time, but it's still an ongoing process for sure.
Yeah. What I going off of that, communication is like, it's interesting because you kind of just think that it'll happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
You think like, hey, I live with this person. I've lived with people before. Learning how to communicate, you don't expect it to be that different from how you've learned to communicate with other people.
Mm-hmm.
But once you're married, it brings new challenges of communication into it, right? And I don't know. What do you think were like the what do you think were like the did you have like sticking points in your communication that you discovered that you had to figure out, like work around?
Well, I guess the biggest challenge when I look at like year 2 really came into play, obviously, with the boy. So we've got Lincoln.
Andrew always refers to Lincoln on the podcast as the boy.
Our son's name is Lincoln.
There you go.
Not the boy.
He is the boy to me.
The boy.
But yeah, so he's going on a year now and just like a week. But
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Kaylee's still, But
Kaylee's not sure how she feels about it.
I think the biggest point of contention, I would say, and this is often like really when it comes to any type of struggle between us, it comes down to him. Like at this point, because we don't really fight other than that, but it's just
they've never fought.
Well, like nothing to that level. And it really comes down to the fact that when you're having to raise a child, you'd think like, okay, we're this team, we're in this all together, but yet there's still these points of friction where like things that she would do with Lincoln that I might necessarily have done differently or chosen to go about it a different way. And like, if those things aren't clearly communicated, then that's like the point where the friction creates the most, I guess, tension. Cause like stuff that happens throughout your day or whatever that like might make you upset or me upset, like that doesn't get to you as much as like Lincoln stuff.
Yeah.
I think. Because obviously like he at this point is both of ours like number one priority. So like that really changes things big time. And then it also affects in the other phase of that like a lot of the little stuff that probably bothered us year 1 between our relationship just kind of pass away a little bit because Lincoln is now taking so much more priority, and that aspect is then heightened, I think.
And I think a lot of it is how you're raised. Like, so we were both raised in different households.
Correct. They're not related other than marriage.
Well, with different parenting styles.
Yes, true.
And you can really see that play out when it comes to things with Lincoln about how like I want stuff done, about how he wants stuff done, about if Lincoln falls and bumps his head, you know, I'm losing my mind, and Andrew's saying, it's fine. He's going to be okay. And that's nothing I want to hear at that moment.
And that's where that's where the communication really has to like kind of become clearer. I think between us. And it just kind of evolves that like the other things like from year one that might have upset us kind of just fade away at that point, I think, because things become more important on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different for sure.
What are things that are on that list of like things that used to get under your skin more, and now that you've adjusted to living with Lincoln,
I think
that now, like now that you're like, oh, I kind of let that get under my skin too much, or
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it is, especially when you're a newly married couple, and if you have not, you're living together for the first time, so you're really seeing like how one folds their towels, how one cleans their dishes. Like some people rinse their dishes before exactly,
or doesn't clean their
dishes,
or
doesn't. You know,
it's like every little thing,
and you really have to learn how to balance each other out. And like, okay, how do you want to do things, and what is that communication, instead of just getting annoyed that, okay, I kind of wash the dishes clean before I put them in the dishwasher because I don't want the stuff to dry, and Andrew's just like, well, just put it in the dishwasher. That's what the dishwasher's
that
for.
Surprises me. I know we have bigger things to talk about, but that surprises me because we grew up in a house with an old dishwasher
that didn't do a very good job.
It didn't do a very good job. So I feel like I'm thoroughly trained, maybe even more so than Rachel, to like you see that to really like get it clean before I put them in the dishwasher.
How we've adjusted this is most of the time now, Kaylee is the primary like kind of meal preparer or that aspect, and then
it's a very patriarchal
I
podcast.
Always do that. I always and then it's always
Andrew is not a good cook.
It's always emphasized that like if she's going to prepare dinner, then I'm doing dishes. So that's where it's like
he said it's always emphasized. Who emphasizes it?
No, like I take that.
Once I sit on the couch, he's on dish duty.
The emphasis.
That's the emphasis.
I take care of that. I take care of that duty so that then it's like, okay, it's
fair
happening.
trade.
And she, as long as the dishes are clean, it's okay. And she doesn't have to get upset about how I might go about it.
And until you have kids that are old enough, you can't like make them do the dishes.
Yeah.
Whenever they get old enough, then neither you got to do dishes.
Well, then Lincoln will do it the way I like it, and I can tell him how it's done.
Lincoln's almost 1 in a week, like I said, so he's almost there.
Yeah, he's getting there soon. He's walking around. He's standing up a little bit. He'll be ready to do dishes.
Like literally,
soon.
He doesn't even want to crawl anymore. He gets going so fast that like he still tumbles forward just because his momentum just. Yeah, it's little really cute though.
We saw that communication key when he fell the other day, and poor thing bit his tongue and bled a little bit and got it on Andrew's shirt. And I thought Andrew was going to pass out until I quickly realized that the blood stops very quickly. And I was like, he's fine. Don't worry about it. And Andrew was like, there's blood on my shirt. I think otherwise.
Well, that was the first time I had seen my boy bleed.
My boy.
Yeah.
The boy.
So, it is a little traumatic.
So going back to the dishes. What, like, you really don't, I'm really struck by the fact that you don't do that.
I only don't rinse them when I'm going to immediately turn on the dishwasher. Otherwise,
he rinses them. I take the sponge and essentially clean it before the dishwasher. I kind of make sure, though, if it's dishes that are going in the dishwasher, I wash all the other dishes with the sponge and the soap first. And then once the soap is gone, then I will clean it. So then, because if I clean the dishes with the soap on it, there's no point in putting it in the dishwasher because it's clean.
This is a deep dive. Yeah. This is what we've learned.
David really got distracted.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, that's interesting. We'll talk. We'll have a bonus episode to talk about dishes more. But I was just surprised by that because in our house growing up, it was like you had to pretty much clean them. And the dishwasher, I guess, was like a formality.
Basically, just ran water.
I don't even know why we had it because all the time, like, it was just like, we got an older dishwasher. It's fine. And then, so that's funny. Rachel and I think, do we have dish-related problems? I don't know. Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think we're okay.
Yeah.
You guys are perfect.
No.
That's fine.
We have plenty of,
I think the issue is more that you leave dishes in the sink.
Ooh. And now it comes out.
Haley, don't spit. Fine. Don't have a spit take on the recording equipment, please.
Well, I I think you think that they need to soak a little bit.
Yeah, I'm always down to soak.
Oh, the soak
I soak
game.
them. Yeah, I soak them and then I go back and get them later because I just don't want them to get. I don't want to get anything stuck to the dishes.
Then I get them later because no, you do the dishes a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
We didn't mean to just talk about dishes.
Hey,
yeah.
Honestly though, there's probably plenty of marriages that get in heated debates about that.
About dishes.
But
that's true.
But I think one thing, segue, radio professional. One thing that teaches you is to like you guys talked about. It's a small thing that you should be able as a couple to give each other grace and like even if they mess up for like the millionth time, which is hard sometimes. But if anything, like you guys talked about, you guys had a kid and that made you realize even more the different ways that you were raised. That's a lot of what marriage is you're learning these expectations that you didn't realize you had about marriage. The longer you're together, the more that you realize you had different expectations. And that's something that, you have premarital counseling, right? Most people go through premarital counseling. If you're in the church, you probably went through some form of premarital counseling. A lot of it is kind of a formality, and I think it's to our detriment. I think a really healthy model. Like one of the things I wrote down, I did like a little bit of show prep, which is record for this.
Oh man!
And then I wrote down 3 one-word phrases on a piece of sticky note.
I just wrote dishes.
Dishes.
Just kidding.
But one of the things I wrote down was just premarital counseling, because I think that premarital counseling is often not of great value to a couple. Because often it comes at a time when a couple has already decided to get married and they're probably already like looking at their wedding day soon approaching. And so it's kind of like a rush, like, hey, let's meet 6 times in 6 weeks and like knock out all of your future problems in 6 weeks.
And they might already have a large portion of like what after marriage plans are already like in the books, like, you know, where they're living, where they all that stuff. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
And a lot of that time, like, I think a much better way for us to do premarital counseling is a bit of an aside, but like to start earlier on, like couples, maybe even before they're engaged, but whenever they're dating and they know like we're heading towards engagement, to start meeting with like a couple or somebody in the church kind of regularly to start talking about that stuff and do that through engagement. Well, one of the things I would say, advice if people are not married yet, would be to find a way to do some sort of counseling after you get married. Even if it's just like monthly meeting with somebody in your church, like a couple in your church that you look at their marriage and you're like, they seem to have a good marriage. I'd like to be married like they're married. They don't fight a lot. They treat each other well, all that stuff. Just to do, because once you get married, you then live with each other and then you realize all the hidden expectations that you didn't think you had. Yeah. And those begin to create little points of friction. And if you are meeting with somebody regularly, then hopefully they could help you navigate those waters.
And those can be fleshed out even before and possibly negate the friction altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think that like before you get married, like Rachel and I talked a lot, because you do that in premarital counseling. You talk about like goals you would have for your family, goals you want to see in the future, what you want your marriage to be all about, how you want to spend your time. But then once you get married, life happens to you, and it's hard to stay on course with the things that you said you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's where potentially like some kind of counseling where you have mentors or something that you could give them those goals and say like, hey, since we're going to meet regularly, like try to hold us accountable to these goals and like tell us if you think we're meeting them.
Well, and that's why I think too, it's like just having the aspect, like if hopefully you're plugged into a church body regularly that's active and investing into each other's lives. Cause then you should have, hopefully your church has some type of, not like a hierarchy, but like you have different demographics in your church as far as like those that are more elder.
Different stations of life.
Yeah, different stations of life is what I'm going for. But you have people that you don't even have to formally, I guess, set up like a marriage counseling ongoing relationship, but you just have relationships that are more established than you and in a different stage that you are actively involved in their lives regularly.
Yeah.
And then often those types of conversations just flesh their way out naturally or organically over time too. And that's just that's often the sign. I mean, I would think that's often a sign of a very healthy church if they have those established Christians in those different stages of life, so that they're always able to build into the next generation and always able to pass that fruit forward down the line too. So
yeah, I think it's good for younger people to be actively looking for older people that can help them. I think it's good when you see older couples looking for younger couples.
Yeah.
And that doesn't just work for like the 60-year-old couple and the 20-year-old couple. Like that can be the 60 ministers to the 45-year-old couple, and they minister to the, And if you're recently married, you can minister to people that are dating. Like you can, there's always wisdom that everybody's accumulated for somebody else to give. But I don't know. I think the biggest lesson for me in our second year of marriage, and I don't think it'd be a surprise to Rachel, because I think we've talked about it a lot recently, is when you get married, it is easy to try to continue to live as though you're really just like two single people that live together. And this was kind of true for Rachel and I because of our very different work schedules. And so it was easy for us to kind of just be like, to have like an okay like relationship, almost like akin to a dating relationship, because we didn't see each other every day.
Yeah.
And we still have days where because of our work, we don't get to see each other. But in our second year of marriage, I saw God at times forcing us to confront the idea of actually becoming one flesh instead of like remaining as individual as we used to be.
Like cohabitating.
Yeah. Like instead of just being, married, but actually taking like another step to like living our lives more interdependently on each other in a good and like healthy way. Mm-hmm. Because I think it's easy to like simply live together and simply be married. But I think that like the kind of marriage that is really life-giving and godly and like reflects the gospel and the love that we should have for each other, it goes deeper than just like two people that get along and live together, and like it becomes like it says, two people become one in like the deepest sense. Like their goals, their ambitions, their care for each other becomes one.
And that I think happens with time, and that also, like as we were talking about at the beginning, from a friction standpoint, as you are investing in that, then that's why like year two possibly is easier than year one, because those, if you are truly invested in having a commingled interdependent life, then oftentimes that leads to your desires that were individual and your friction points that were individual then are fading away, and it becomes what actually is meaningful to us and both of us. And then it often elevates like Kaylee's desires and Kaylee's things that I know then bother her, then also have an effect on me. And so that's, I think, where you get to the next level of like, then the smaller things wash away, and what really bothers us ends up being things that we truly are passionate about just as one, instead of what I might bother about her and what she might bother with me. Yeah.
Little things that get under your skin.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in year two we had, that is a decision where you have to reckon the fact that like, oh, I did get married. And when I did get married, I really did give up, my solitary claim to my own life. Mm-hmm. Like it really is gone now. Like I really did give that up, to where my time is no longer like my own, and happily so. Like it needs to be given up. And then you guys experience another level of that when you had a kid, where now you have the spouse and you also have a child, that your time is no longer
even more so. Yeah.
It's now split into other people that God has given you callings to serve in.
Yeah.
But it's easy to remain married and still not be willing to really give up that selfishness.
How do you think practically you would go down towards I mean, obviously the biggest part too, like we've already said, is probably having investment from those that are beyond you in wisdom, and then also just, I mean, I don't know.
I think you have to, for me, a practical thing that I saw was, I was good at loving Rachel compared to other people. But I realized I wasn't that good at loving her compared to myself. Mm-hmm. I could very easily put her ahead of other people. It was easy. Yeah. Because I like her more than I like other people. And so it's easy.
She's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so it's easy to put her first in front of other people. But then times when, like I was confronted with like, okay, do something that will bless her or do something that will bless me.
Yeah.
Even when that's as simple as doing the dishes the way that she wants to do them, like those are the times that you've got to be willing to sacrifice in those ways. From the tiny things all the way up to the bigger things, like even the bigger things in your life, like jobs or hobbies or things like that. Like you've got to be willing to think about them from the perspective of not just how do I like it or how does it affect me, but like how does my family like it? How does my family, how does it affect them?
Yeah.
And that's where selfishness gets uncovered even more.
And I think it's easy, like, since we have such different schedules, like it's easy to be like, oh, well, I can just take this time and like do what I want with it because David's not here right now or vice versa. But I don't know, just even serving each other, like when we're not really around physically each other that much.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. There are so many times when it's easy, like if I'll come home from work and she's already left for work, I have to fight because my own love for just like personal time and stuff like that. You got to fight that and think about what are the things that like that Rachel would need done.
Yeah. Like what could you do to serve her?
Exactly.
And what would she like, or what would,
what would be a blessing to her? Not just what do I feel like doing after work?
Yeah.
And yeah, you, I think every year that you're married or a lot of the years that you're married, you're just kind of discovering new ways to serve the other person.
Yeah.
And to let go of yourself a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And for the sake, hopefully, of like a greater joy that you're closer united with your spouse and you're more closely following what God has for you guys as a family.
Yeah.
But it's just really easy to still, I think that maybe just for me, but I did not realize all the ways in which I still wanted to operate like as a single person. Yeah. Meaning like all the little ways that I wanted to be totally in charge of my time and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And in the second year of marriage, God definitely taught me like to lay everything down on the table more and to trust him more, that the best life for us will be when we give ourselves to the other person more readily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And getting more and more towards fully, I guess, because you're still always struggling against selfish desire.
Maybe you are.
For your entire, unless you got it. I don't know anybody that has it perfected at this point. So
that's my goal for year 3.
Yeah. Year 3.
Year 3 in marriage. Rachel and I are both going to be totally
perfectionally interdependent on each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, I just got back from this conference, the Sojourn conference in Louisville, which was a lot of fun. If you're looking for a conference to go to, I recommend it. I'm also biased to say that as a member of a Sojourn church, right?
And you just went to it. So.
And I just went to it.
So it was awesome.
But that was one of the things that one of the speakers talked about, was how God makes us each with our own limits. And we need to see those limits as like opportunities for interconnectedness with the people that God has put in our lives.
Yeah.
And then also how we just need to celebrate the person that we're in marriage with, and help them like follow their passions and explore the things that they care about. But the whole time being ruled by love and sacrifice to the other person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, that could that develops and manifests both in the way that you are connected to a loving church, but then ultimately at an even greater scale in your marriage.
Yeah.
So,
there's, I think in the second year of marriage, it feels like I learned more about that sacrifice, and also just the reality that marriage and life are a lot better when you're like doing it together, and to treasure that and like foster that, and always be caring about your relationship with your spouse, and not to just let it like go on autopilot, but to let it be really intentional about it. Whether that like takes the form of like going out on dates a certain amount of times, or just commute, like putting in a real effort to communicate better with your spouse. That stuff's like really worth it. And it's, once you're married, that's like a primary calling on your life is to do that. So yeah, that's 2 years of marriage, man.
Yeah.
All the wisdom that I've gained in 2 years.
Still working on it.
Yeah. The overarching lesson that 2 years of marriage is just like, you have given up your self to the other person. You have to learn what it means that the two become one flesh. And like David doesn't exist anymore. And David and Rachel exist now. But David doesn't exist anymore. David and Rachel exist.
And like, it's just, you realize looking back, like, that obviously comes tenfold even when you add in a child to the mix, but you look back at like year one of just how you can kind of mask it when it's still just like you and your wife, and you guys obviously still just have your, largely your responsibilities and stuff. You got
more free time still and all that.
So it just like becomes exponentially greater as you walk forward, and you have more interdependent responsibilities that are just naturally occurring.
Yeah.
But I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think we did okay.
I think we did all right.
Yeah, let's see. Do the wives think we did okay?
Are the wives shaking their heads?
You guys did great.
We did okay. Oh, that was encouraging.
You did good.
Oh,
we didn't misspeak or anything.
Yeah.
You do not have to retract any statements tonight.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Yeah.
I thought we'd have at least one retraction.
Yeah.
No, but so we made it through. Made it through our first recording with 4 people. We've never done. We've never done this before. It reminds me a little bit of back when we first started recording, because Kaylee and Rachel had to pass a mic around, just like Andrew and Jeremy did. But made it through. Made it through our first one, and the first one in a new studio.
Yep.
Studio number
9 or 10 or something.
I don't think we're at 10 yet. I think this is studio 6, maybe.
I think we've
maybe
used
studio
that before,
7,
but okay.
The Kaylee can fact check us on that. But 4? I don't think it's 4.
No, they recorded outside. We
did an outside recording. We did one in Jeremy's garage.
It's still his house.
No, every room's a different
studios.
studio.
And we had 2 at our house too. So
yeah, we have 2 different studios at your guys' house.
Yeah.
There's the upstairs and the downstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll go with 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys got any recommendations to the Rachel or Kaylee? Do you guys have any recommendations? You don't have to, but I've got one.
This is what we meant by notes, boys.
Yeah, you guys want
any
putting us on the spot.
Those are the questions. Before we sat down,
we never have a recommendation.
Like Kaylee was like, "So what questions are you gonna ask?" And I was like, "We don't know yet.
Yeah,
like,
we'll figure it out.
We're not sure." And then like we got closer to recording, and one of you guys said, "So are we really not going to talk about? Are we really not going to talk about what we're going to talk about?"
We were like, "No, we're really not."
And we're just Andrew and I are like looking at each other like, "Oh, no."
Yeah, we just go.
It just kind of is a thing.
This is what you guys get.
Yeah. So I'll give a quick recommendation based on the Sojourn thing that I just went to, because I met Pastor Jared Sparks there. Who was a pastor in Carbondale, I think. I might be getting this wrong. Jared, if I'm getting it wrong, I'm sorry, because we met in person
And is he going to be listening?
Isn't Carbondale? He might probably won't be. But I think Carbondale's Illinois, isn't it? Carbondale, Illinois?
I have no idea, man.
He's there. He's a pastor of a church. He's in the Sojourn Network. He has a podcast called The Shepherd's Crook. The Shepherd's Crook. So it's a podcast by a pastor written for pastors to encourage them and give them wisdom and stuff. I found it really, really helpful the last few weeks I've listened to it. And his wife is starting a podcast, I think, called Faithful and Fruitful. Again, I think. I'm going to look it up. And the proper name will be on the show notes. But Shepherd's Crook podcast and Faithful and Fruitful podcast, unless that's the wrong name. Both of those I would recommend listening to if you're looking for podcasts to listen to. So, all right.
I don't really have anything.
You don't have anything?
I enjoyed this Oktoberfest here.
That's right.
Because it is Oktoberfest season beer-wise, which is personally, that is my recommendation.
Yep.
As far as seasonal beers go, Oktoberfest is the best. So
it's true.
Just know that right now.
Christmas ale more, but
no.
Yeah, the Christmas ale from
Christmas ales are good for a time, but I could drink Oktoberfest
year round
if I needed to.
I agree with
that. I like them.
Not forced.
If I needed to.
If I needed to.
No, I'm with Andrew on that. And
so yeah,
it's good stuff.
Go enjoy an Oktoberfest.
There you go. But all good things come to an end.
Yep.
Except marriage. See what I did there?
Yeah.
But this podcast has come to an end.
Unlike marriages, will end.
This does end, and so we're getting near the end of the year, and we'll be taking a little bit of a break near the end of the year. So last minute notifications. Give us questions for episodes. They can be.
Are we actually making it like season 2?
Yeah, there'll be like a season 2.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to do that, but we'll figure it out.
It's gonna be so epic.
We'll have a season finale. It'll be crazy. Hopefully, like the last week before Christmas. I think
we need to figure out how
when the babies come on.
Maybe
that's when the babies come on.
Yeah,
exactly.
My boy.
Well, we will have
the boy.
Soon we're gonna do. I don't know if Kaylee and Faith will be on it, but soon I want to do one with. You guys can be if you want to be on it, but Jeremy and Andrew.
Your name is Rachel.
No, because it'll be Andrew and Jeremy talking about having completed 1 year of parenting. And so, and Rachel hasn't done that. That's why she wasn't on the podcast. I'll just be on that one.
They're like your children.
I'll just. That's so lame.
That's so depressing.
I'll just.
You're just a plant mom.
You're just a plant mom.
I wish I was. Kill them in a
Some
second.
days. So on that podcast, I'll just be hanging out, listening to Andrew and Jeremy talk. But we're going to talk about that and hopefully do an episode where listener questions are answered. So they can be big ones. They can be small ones. Just give us any questions you have. Serious ones.
No dumb questions.
Yeah. Well, there might be some. Yeah. But we just want to answer those.
But if so, we'll laugh at them. So it's fine.
And you can get those to us at threebrotherstalking@gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. Whatever. You can find it.
All the deets.
And really professional outro.
Yep.
So we did it.
Catch you later,
there we
guys.
go. We'll see you guys next time.